Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space for black news, views, and opinions. Today is Tuesday, February 15th. I'm Seth Lemon.
I'm Nielle.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, change in plans. Vladimir Putin pulls Russian troops from the Ukrainian border. But it's not enough to quell any concerns of a possible military invasion. Meanwhile, Louisiana lawmakers say they will investigate the death of Ronald, questioning what took so long to release police body camera video. Then, in a case of we don't all look alike, NBC apologizes for mixing up two black women during the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Not a good look. Plus, did Melania Trump sell tickets worth tens of thousands of dollars for a charity that doesn't even exist? Well, prompted a New York State investigation. And come Mr. DJ Song Pon the replay, Rihanna may have found love, but says she won't stop the music. The promise the pregnant singer is making to her Navy.
Can't wait to find out about that. Soulmates, we have that and so much more. And you know how we do it, from our voice and our truth. So if you're ready, let's go.
Russia says it is pulling some of its troops back from the border of Ukraine. It's little consolation, though, for world leaders who still see a possible invasion as the potential impetus for a new world war. Russia's defense military says it will continue large-scale military maneuvers. The Pentagon says Russian combat units were still moving into forward positions on its Ukrainian border. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he says the United States is offering Ukraine a $1 billion loan guarantee to help the country's economy amid the uncertain economic stability in the face of this destabilization. Now, this is at least the fourth time the U.S. has loaned the country $1 billion since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Other allies have participated in this, including other members of the G7. It's a lot of money to be offering them consistently, but it would affect us back here with gas prices. One thing I saw yesterday, though, was Ukrainians are all practicing with AK-47s and other guns, including grandmas. There was an 80-year-old grandmother who was learning how to aim and shoot so that they can defend themselves. This is a really tense situation.
Very, very tense. You know, Canada will also offer a loan of up to $393 million as well to support Ukraine, as well as lethal equipment and ammunition. But, you know, a lot of people online, including myself, are saying, hey, this is great. You're adding $1 billion, and not that there isn't a viable reason for this helping. But we have Social Security that's going to cancel for people here back in the U.S. We have our own Black and Latino people that are also struggling. We're talking about a pandemic right now, wonder where money is at. It doesn't really make you feel too good to see $1 billion going to somewhere else different, and we're struggling back home.
Amazing what we can find the funding for, right?
Right. This situation is so serious that UN Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenland had to forego her trip to Liberia. And since we're talking about foreign affairs, what makes this significant is our Western brothers and sisters in the continent of Africa in Liberia. They're celebrating the year of return, their 200th anniversary. And so for the United Nations ambassador to have to forego to celebrate with our Liberian sisters and brothers, it just shows how important this situation is. But we also want to celebrate our Liberian brothers and sisters on their 200th anniversary and the year of the return.
Definitely want to do that. But, you know, there was even like pictures of Ukrainian people going out for Valentine's Day, trying to live some type of normal life, knowing this is happening and it could jump off at any moment. Look, there's bills we're trying to get passed here in our country. There's people that are homeless in our streets. We have to figure out how to fix that. I understand why they're doing this. Maybe we'll help the gas prices down the road, but we have to take care of home just as well.
Absolutely, Romeo. A great point. So the accounting firm that has had a long-term relationship with the Trump organization, they're cutting ties with the former president's company. Mazars USA, they say it could no longer stand behind a decade of financial statements it prepared for the company. Mazars officials say they prepared the statements based on the information provided to them by the Trump organization. The disclosure appeared in new court documents filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James. James wants to question Trump and his adult children. The New York Attorney General has accused the Trumps of lying about the value of the company's assets to get favorable terms on loans and real estate appraisals. Company officials deny any wrongdoing. It is survival of the fittest right now. And everyone, at the end of the day, either Mazars is going to blame Trump for lying to them to get these documents, or Trump is going to say that Mazar has helped him and his company lie to the American people. But who's going to be the one to take the fall? That is the question.
Yeah, all of this is coming from these new court documents. It's revealing more and more information. I mean, there was already a lot of belief that Trump overinflated his worth, even as he was running the campaign, calling himself a billionaire. But the proof is in the pudding right here, and it's plain as day for the public to see now.
Yeah, and Trump has a track record of doing things like this. Remember his college? And he swindled all of those students out of the money. You can go so far back to think about his father and him when they had the Department of Justice investigating them about, disenfranchising people of color when it has to do with housing. Donald Trump does not have a good track record when it comes to honesty and transparency, so this definitely is no surprise.
I look at this situation, at some point it's going to come to an ugly head. It has to, right? You think about all the wrongdoing that's been happening when Trump was in the office, and now that he's out, a lot of things are being exposed. So who's going to come forward and just say, you know what, I'm not taking the fall for this guy. I'm going to stand up and say, this is what happened. Someone has to be vocal about it, because a lot of people could go down with Donald Trump, and he doesn't mind doing that. We already know that. He doesn't have a problem with that, because in his eyes, he can do no wrong.
I think Mazar's pulling out is the statement, actually, Ronald.
Yeah.
I think that is
jumping off the train now.
Exactly, because they have a business to run at the end of the day, and if they're found liable here, this could end their entire business. So I think them pulling out and breaking away from Trump is the answer that we kind of need. I think
but is it too late?
And we definitely want to see more of this, because the more pressure you put on Trump, a lot of other people are going to begin to pull out and possibly turn on Trump, which is what the Department of Justice wants, Attorney General Letitia James wants, and the District Attorney of New York City, Alan Braggs wants, and the District Attorney in Georgia wants. They all want to see these type of actions happen when it comes to Donald Trump.
Definitely. All right, more possible legal trouble for the Trumps. Florida officials are launching a probe into an upcoming fundraiser featuring Melania Trump. State investigators say the charity isn't registered in the state. The New York Times says tickets were being sold at an exclusive high tea in April. But there is a question about whether the charity even exists. By law, a charity must register in Florida. Tickets were going as high as $50,000 for VIPs. The charity reportedly is supposed to fund computer science scholarships for young people in foster care. Mrs. Trump called the New York Times story dishonest reporting by the corrupt media. Is the media really that corrupt? Again, this is another way for me. I feel like they're trying to get money. They're trying to do whatever they can. They're trying to use that name, that brand. But here's the problem. You have a lot of people, that fan base, that base that loves Trump. They're going to go ahead and try and get on board with this. They're going to go ahead and give money to things like this moving forward, because they still believe in the Trump movement. At what point are you going to realize that all things that look good on the outside really isn't good?
Melania didn't even want to be the first lady. So what makes her all of a sudden want to care so much about children and computer science?
Demi, be best.
I'm just saying, be well here, okay? But my thing is, who would even trust Melania Trump to want to give $50,000 to her? She didn't even want to be in the position, an easy position that was handed over to her. Easiest position here. What would make you even give her money, $1 to her charity?
Sure.
I don't know.
All right, moving on to Capitol Hill now. There's a bill to reform and modernize the U.S. Postal Service that is in trouble despite riding a wave of bipartisan support. The House passed legislation, it put the legislation on hold Monday despite it passing the House. Florida Senator Rick Scott, he blocked an attempt by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to make a last-minute change to the bill. The House clerk initially sent over an incorrect version of that bill last week before it was corrected on Friday. Scott says he stopped it so that it could be improved, but Schumer, he argues, it's the same bill with a technical change that the senators had already agreed to take a vote on last week.
African American and Latino congressional candidates were 6 out of 10 of the biggest fundraisers in the final quarter of 2021. The Congressional Quarterly says Senator Raphael Warnock, he led everyone, and he raised $9.8 million during the last 3 months of last year. Now, the man trying to take his job, Herschel Walker, raised almost $5.5 million, and Florida Representative Val Demings pulled in $7 million for her state Senate campaign, more than $5.2 million more than her opponent, Marco Rubio, raised in that quarter.
Florida lawmakers are at odds with Governor Ron DeSantis over the state's congressional maps. The fight is over a congressional district that is almost 50% black. DeSantis wants to divide the district up into several GOP-leaning districts, but GOP House and Senate leaders want to keep the things that they are at the state election. Experts say DeSantis' involvement is unorthodox. State Senate Republicans already put their map together when DeSantis proposed his own map. He is a man that's saying that we're going to do things my way. I mean, he's literally going on record saying you can take this to the bank. Nothing's going to happen without him having some kind of say-so about it. It's obvious what is happening here. If you think about that district, that particular area, they're trying to break it up so we don't have power, we don't have control, and we can't put the right people in power and control to make sure this country gets into a better place. We all see what's going on here.
Yeah, it's all about representation. I'm just interested to see if he's going to run for president, because he's definitely keeping his name in mainstream media in the headlines, and he's definitely being looked at as a viable candidate to go up against Donald Trump should he decide to run as well.
Yeah, he just submitted a new proposal for a map today, so a second proposal. And of these, 20 of the districts strongly favor Republicans who supported Donald Trump. Only 8 of the districts carried Joe Biden. So there is a huge imbalance. And right now in his proposal, there are no black districts in North Florida. So some clear drawing of the lines happening here.
Yeah, it is.
The Wisconsin GOP, well, they plan to weaponize critical race theory in the upcoming governor's race. State political analysts say they are taking a lead from Republican success stories like Glenn Youngkin, whose CRT playbook was triumphant in the race for Virginia governor. The Wisconsin GOP thinks it'll also work in their attempt to unseat Democratic Governor Tony Evers. Youngkin stoked fear in white Virginia voters, falsely claiming that critical race theory was being taught to public school children.
Some Minneapolis high school students staged a sit-in at City Hall last week demanding justice in the wake of Amir Locke's death. The Minneapolis North community students say they were tired of being hurt and being scared. Amir Locke was shot to death by police earlier this month in a no-knock warrant incident. Amir was not the subject of the warrant when cops barged into the apartment he was staying in, shot him as he was laying on the couch. School administrators support the students' protest.
The first day of the federal hate crime trial of the men who killed Ahmaud Arbery is revealing just how racist these men really were. Prosecutors say days before Arbery's murder, Roddy Bryant made several racist comments when he found out his daughter was dating a black man. In a text message, Bryant allegedly said she is dating a N-word now. Prosecutors add that Bryant also referred to this man as a monkey. During the criminal case, race was rarely mentioned by prosecutors, but in this case, prosecutors are arguing that race was the driving reason for this attack. Race is absolutely going to be the main factor here, especially I feel like if we were to use a comparison here, I don't feel like we saw as much of this with Derek Chauvin. We didn't get a chance to, we didn't see any like racial text messages and his back and forth with a bunch of like racial personal things going on. Here, this is going to, I feel like, cloud this entire case. And I'm really finding it hard how jurors are going to be impartial with all of this news coming out about this.
I mean, this is a hard thing. This is a hard thing to prove. It's a very heavy burden to prove what the mindsets someone had was when they committed a crime like this. How do you prove that someone was racist? And it's an iffy line, because just because someone has used a racial slur or epithet, does that necessarily mean that all their following actions in life are necessarily precipitated by a bias that they have toward black people? Or can they have those moments where they say things like that but just not be racist overall? It's a very weird thing to have to try to prove in court.
I don't think that you can say that. I feel like they're one and the same.
But you can't say that everybody who's used the N-word is a racist, or can you? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, but the reason why we're seeing this lining of questioning is because they've been charged with a hate crime.
Right.
And so you're going to see this type of information coming out because the prosecutors are trying to prove their point that this was a hate crime. Yeah. And so, you know, this is why we're hearing this line of test, that we're hearing all of this information coming out, because they have to prove that burden. And I think it's important that we hear these things so that, you know, the point is proven that this just wasn't somebody protecting, 3 men protecting a community. They were racist and they targeted an African-American male.
All right, the Louisiana State House is investigating the death of Ronald Green back in 2019. A special select committee will review who knew what and when during the 2 years between Green's death and the release of the police body cam footage. That video, it shows cops punching, kicking, and tasing Green during a traffic stop in Monroe, Louisiana. Before the video came to light, police had said that Green died from injuries in a car wreck after a high-speed chase with officers. The Associated Press reports that Governor John Bel Edwards kept quiet about what he knew in Green's death. The governor has denied the AP story. Body cam footage doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't.
But we are always, I think, more apt to understand circumstances when transparency happens immediately rather than years down the line. What took so long? I mean, we saw a video that comes out when it's favorable to cops, it comes out very quickly, but when it's not, they sit on it.
I agree. And, you know, I feel like this. I think it took so long because they knew what happened. We all saw what really happened. And they were trying to figure out, how do we handle this moving forward? Because at some point, the truth will surface. How are we going to protect our other men here that did wrong on that day, that took that man's life? How are we going to protect him? That's what I feel it's all about. It's like, we got to prepare for the storm. And that's what they were trying to do.
Right, and attorney Lee Merritt is representing the family, and it also should be noted that he is running for Attorney General for the state of Texas. And early voting has started, so vote.
At what point do you have a moral conscience as a person? At what point do you just feel as a person, you know, even though you're a police officer, you have a badge, at what point do you stop and say, I'm going to take accountability for this because what I did was absolutely awful?
I agree.
A local Louisville civil rights activist is in jail after police say he shot at a mayoral candidate. Cops say Quintez Brown fired multiple shots at Craig Greenberg on Monday, missing him but grazing his clothes. Now, Brown was charged with an attempted murder and 4 counts of wanton endangerment. Brown is a former intern for a local Louisville newspaper. Investigators say they are trying to figure out the motive for the shooting.
An alderman in Tennessee is admitting he called his neighbor the N-word during an argument. A police body cam recorded Thomas Dillard admitted to using the slur. Cops say Dillard and his neighbor were having a dispute over dogs, and Dillard says on camera it probably wasn't a good idea for him to admit on police camera he used the N-word during the argument. Dillard neighbors is described as a biracial. Local NAACP officials are calling for Dillard to resign.
Police are investigating the death of a Philadelphia woman who was reported missing a month after her male roommate was found dead inside their home. Kim Ezel's body was found in a vehicle on Delaware Community College's campus. The 59-year-old had been reported missing since early January. Her roommate, 78-year-old Stanley Lawton, was found shot to death in the Philly home as well.